What is up, YouTube? It is time for another video. Today I'm going to kind of do a little bit of an explanation on IIFYM, also known as If It Fits Your Macros. So what are macros? Macros are the breakdown of nutrients that are found in calories. And so any calorie is going to be made up of a certain amount of protein, fats, and carbs. So each gram of protein and carbs has 4 calories per gram, and each gram of fat has 9 calories per gram. So the reason that we do macros rather than just plain empty calories is so that it's still more goal specific. Protein and carbs in sync are very, very important to protein synthesis and building and repairing muscles and hanging on to that muscle tissue. So that's why you see a lot of bodybuilders and people that are into the weight training use this method, or they use this method in the form of meal plans where they know they're getting their certain amount of proteins, fats, and carbs. Because when you just track calories, you aren't going to probably get the same amount of protein in, because a lot of times it does take a conscious effort. So when you track your macros, you have specific goals that you meet for each of those 3 categories. So at first it's a little overwhelming. It's kind of hard to really kind of grasp the concept, but once you dive into it, it's super easy. It's super simple to understand. So I thought I would just kind of make a video explaining that to you all, because a lot of times people ask me and I just assume that it's basic knowledge, but it's really simple to learn. So if you want to learn, then just keep watching. So first, my favorite macronutrient is protein. Protein is very easy to get whenever you do make a conscious effort. So if you're just starting out tracking your macros, a good goal to start with is 0.5 to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight that you weigh within consideration. So whenever I am tracking my macros, like right now I weigh 140 pounds, so I'm tracking 140 grams of protein a day. So whenever you're cutting, like when I was in my competition prep, my goal body weight was to be about 130, and so I was tracking 130 grams of protein. So if for some reason you're like just getting started on your fitness journey and you're larger and you weigh a little bit more, like if you weigh 250 pounds, you do not need to track 250 grams of protein a day. So that's just kind of a good basic starting point, and then you can go up or down for there. If you weigh 90 pounds and you're trying to put on muscle, 90 grams of protein is probably not going to be enough for you. You're probably going to do like 110 to 120 grams of protein a day. So 0.5 to 1.5 is a kind of your range. You don't really want to go outside of those ranges, but for most people it's probably going to be about 1 gram per pound that you weigh of protein. So that's your good starting point. From there, you want to look at your calorie goal. So if I'm bulking, you're going to want to go slowly, and if you're cutting, you're also going to want to go slowly. So if you've never tracked macros before, start with maintenance calories. So what I would suggest is opening the MyFitnessPal app and just logging everything that you eat for that day. Anything that goes into your mouth, whether that's butter that you put on your potato, whether that's a Coke, like just keep up with it. Just see what you're eating. Do that for a couple of days and get an average. See about what you consume on a day calorie wise. Are you gaining weight? Are you staying the same? For most people, if you're not really making a conscious effort, you're probably eating around maintenance calories. So you're not putting on weight or losing weight. So that's going to be your homeostasis. That's going to be where your body is going to stay the same. So take your calorie goal, and then once you have your calorie goal, add in your protein. Okay, so you're going to take, once you have your protein number that you want to hit, do your protein times, like here I am, 140, do that times 4 calories per gram. So that's going to be 560 calories. So if my bulk calorie goal is about 2,200, I'm going to take 2,200 minus 560, so that's protein already out the window. So the rest of those macros are going to be distributed between carbs and fats. So back whenever I was just about in peak week, I'm just going to October 27th, my carbs were at 43%, my fat was at 21%, and my protein was at 36%. So this is all on MyFitnessPal. If you can see that, it just breaks down each of those. So my carbs were at, and these are like extreme dieting macros, so don't start with these. This is not recommended. I had 160 carbs, 35 fat, and I had 130 protein. So you kind of want to make sure that fat is taking up the smallest percent, about 20%. So if your calorie goal is 2200, let's say that's what my bulking macro is, we're gonna do that times 20%. So that's gonna be about 440 calories of my day that I want to come from fat macronutrients. So we're gonna take that and divide it by 9. So that's gonna be about 48 to 49 grams of fat that I want a day. So the remainder of that, so we have the 2200 minus 560 minus, I think it was 490. That's gonna be 1,150 calories, and these are gonna come from your carbs. Do not think carbs are bad. Carbs are your friend, especially when you are trying to put on muscle or keep muscle. Carbs are essential. They are not bad. Carbs are really good for when you're cutting because you can use them strategically for refeed days. You can use them to slowly drop. They're the most variable of the macronutrients. You're gonna want your protein to stay consistent when you're cutting. You want to hang on to that protein because you're trying to hang on to your muscle. You do not want to use your muscle as energy. You want to use your fat to lose the fat. So anyways, this is gonna be the calories that we want to come from carbs. So we're gonna take this, divide it by 4 because 4 calories per gram. So that's gonna be 287 grams of carbs for that day. So that's just kind of like a good starting point. You can use macro calculators online. If you just like Google macro calculators, it can kind of give you a rough estimate. And my advice is to just start there, track your progress, see how that goes, and then track your weight, see if you gain weight, see if you lose weight, and you just play with it from there. You just kind of see what works. You do not have to hire a coach to do macros. You can basically teach yourself. It's super easy. And then once you kind of get the hang of tracking it, then you can kind of play around with it more. So with tracking macros, the only thing is that you have to track accurately. So when you use MyFitnessPal, let me see if I can show you. You can't just type in like 1 apple. If you're just getting started, I would say do that. That'll give you a really good estimate. It's gonna help you hit your protein goals. If you realize how many excess carbs you're eating or how much excess fat and you're still missing your protein, then definitely just estimate. I mean, it's not gonna hurt. You don't have any crazy goals. Like you're not gonna be stepping on a stage. Like there's no need to go extreme. But if you're really serious and you're not seeing progress and you want to know why, then you have to track more meticulously. You need to get a food scale. You need to accurately track everything that goes in. So if you look at this day, this is from October 26th, you can see that I had 160 grams of egg whites, and then I had 40 grams of blueberries. I had 12 grams of almond butter. So if you just like are eyeballing a tablespoon, I'm sure you've seen it before on Instagram with the like calorie fixes, and it's like 2 tablespoons look exactly the same. One is 200 calories, one is 120 calories, and the only difference is just that little difference in the weight. It's like 3 or 4 grams. So it seems silly at first that something like that can be hindering you from losing weight, but it is those little things that add up over time. So really great carb sources if you're just kind of needing to fill some good healthy carbs. This is my favorite oatmeal. Oats are delicious. You can add fruit to that. Fruit is a great carb. Honey, any sort of whole wheat grain. You can do pasta. Rice is a really great nutritious carb. There's sweet potatoes, red potatoes. Vegetables have a small amount of carbs, so definitely don't neglect vegetables. Even though they're not going to be something you have a macro goal for, you do not want to neglect your fruits and vegetables. So that's a great carb source if you need carbs. You can also just search on Pinterest or online like macro cheat sheet, and it can kind of give you a list of foods for each category if you're lacking certain ones. For fats, nut butters are going to be a really great fat source, along with cheese, avocados, whole eggs, salmon, things like that are really good healthy fats. So that's a good thing if you're kind of low on fats. You can also add olive oil. There's one time whenever I was at the end of my day and I still needed like 5 grams of fat and I had no more carbs or protein left, and so I was like, how am I gonna get just pure fat? So I got a little bit of coconut oil and I actually put it in my nighttime tea, and I didn't taste it at all, and it still makes sure that you're hitting those things. A lot of people try to cut out fat, but fat is very, very essential to your body's health, especially for women. When we have the reproductive organs, and whenever women just in general carry higher body fat, we need fat. When you go to really, really low fat, that can be really dangerous. So you can't just cut out a single form of carbs or fat. You kind of have to use them in balance. You can lower them, you can up them. You can see whenever I'm higher fat, I notice that I have a lot more energy. Fats seem to mess with my mood and hormones more than carbs do, actually, but everybody's different. Not everybody's gonna have the same macros. It all depends on what your goals are, the way your body digests things, the way you are exercising, your stress factors in your life. Like, nobody's gonna have the same macros for that reason. Everybody is different. So for protein, of course, you can do protein powder. It's a really great thing. The one that I like is PE Science, because it just has 24 grams of protein. It has less than 1 carb and 1.5 fat. You have to be careful with protein powders, because the one that my husband really likes, which is BSN Synthesis 6, it's a really great tasting protein powder, but it's got high carbs. I believe it's got 14 grams of carbs. So that's like half carbs and for the amount of protein that you're getting. So just keep an eye on nutrition labels to make sure it will fit between your range. And then, of course, something that I've talked about before on my channel with tracking macros is you can fit really fun, delicious treats into your macros. These are the chocolate hazelnut Oreos, and here are the macros for that. So they've got 7 grams of fat, there's 20 grams of carbs, and 1 gram of protein. So, like, if you look at these oats, they have 18 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fat, and 3 grams of protein. So there's not a huge difference here. This does give a little bit more fat and less protein, but you can definitely fit these in to make sure that you aren't depriving yourselves and getting burnt out and just craving them more. For protein as well, one of the really great tricks that I have learned is egg whites. You can put raw egg whites into your oats and you do not taste them, and egg whites are pure protein. There's no carbs, there's no fats in there, so it really helps getting your protein. Something I've also learned, especially with protein at first getting started, it may seem hard to hit 130 grams of protein just naturally, so make a conscious effort to have small bits of it throughout your day. If you have about 20 to 30 grams of protein in each meal, it's a lot easier to hit. Because I mean, if you just do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's 90 grams of protein. If you have a protein shake on the side, that's gonna be another 30 grams or so, then you're at 120. So all you need is 10 grams more. You can get that snacking on deli meat or chicken or turkey. I really like string cheese, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, things like that, just little snacks, and it's really not as hard as you would think, and it really is so beneficial to making your fitness goals that you want to make. So I hope that that kind of helps. Mostly everything that I have learned from macros, I learned online before I even hired a coach. So it's really simple to learn. Just search Pinterest macros one-on-one if it fits your macros. And you can definitely use the cheat sheets with the types of food that fall into each category. Some things like beans, for example, are high in protein and high in carbs. So a lot of them double up, which help you get a mix of both and both. So basically for my meals, I try to have one of each with vegetables. I have a protein, a fat, a carb, and a vegetable in each meal, or fruit. So for breakfast, my typical breakfast is I get egg whites. I'll start with oats as my carbs. I mix in raw egg whites, and then I add it with almond butter and berries. It's my favorite breakfast, and it hits all of those. Sometimes if I'm needing more protein, I'll also put protein powder in with the oatmeal and stir it all up. For lunch, it's usually some sort of protein, such as chicken or turkey or beef. Some sort of carb, I prefer rice or potatoes. A veggie, which would usually be asparagus, green beans, green bell peppers, and then topped with an olive oil that is all probably cooked in. A lot of times, if you're not getting lean meat, if you're getting more fattier meat, you don't need the extra fat on top. That's a big macro tip, is the smaller meat, the leaner meat you get, you have more room for things like peanut butter and things that are actually gonna fill you up more. That's why I prefer lean meat. Even though I could still get the fattier meat and still reach my goals, I prefer to like eat all my food rather than just having it mixed in. For dinner, you can do something like a whole wheat pasta with a ground turkey, lean ground turkey with a pasta sauce made of like tomatoes, and then add in some green beans and top it with a fat source like cheese. So that's just kind of a good starting point. Like I said, see where you're at on a day-to-day basis, see what your average is. Start there with your calories. Don't jump into anything crazy, excuse me, for changing them. You want to try to not shock your body, so do it very slowly. Drop, like, start with, excuse me, sorry, I'm getting over sickness. You want to drop maybe like 50 to 100 calories at a time. So usually my macro drops would be like 10 to 20 carbs a week, and then like 5 grams of fat a week. So just try it, do it little by little, see how your body responds. You're not gonna know what works for you until you try it out. A lot of times people end up losing weight when they up their macros, and that's just a result of increasing your metabolism, and your body really thrives better. And especially if you're exercising a lot, it needs that extra protein, it needs those extra carbs. So just try it out, see what works, and then go from there. So I hope that helped. If y'all have any questions, please reach out to me, send me an email, send me a DM on Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.